I thought the bit would be a lot funnier, okay? Yo, what's up? Welcome to the 5th creator commentary, I think. This was originally going to be Floor's Lava. However, it's just been scheduling with Matthew has been kind of weird we're trying to really work on chaos. Also, he works like a night shift job, so that also makes things kind of awkward for scheduling. So Floor's Lava creator commentary, I apologize. Delayed for another little while. I also did make a community post saying that there will be a bonus creator commentary for me being late with August's. So yeah, I don't know when that bonus one will be out. It'll be out eventually though. Anyways, let's get in to the video. But first, drink check. As always, ice water, some 4 p.m. coffee, and some like yogurt milk. Kefir, I think it's called. Oh, I didn't. Did I even show this on camera? I like showed it over here. it's yogurt milk. Blueberry yogurt milk. It just tastes like yogurt, but you can drink it. Anyways, drink check now over. Time to get into the video. So, Mario Sunshine with only barrels, so I figured, you know, if we can't do Floor's Lava, we can do another challenge run. And why not do the barrel challenge run? I look really fondly upon this challenge run. It, I think, was the first, like, big project I undertook on YouTube, like, in terms of, I believe I had about 10 hours of footage to go through for this video. And this is one of the first projects I really had to make sacrifices with. Or not sacrifices, but compromises, I guess, because I couldn't fit everything I wanted to in this project, and I think that's actually going to be today's like theme, looking back, me like retrospecting upon this video, because I think some of the compromises I made were unideal going throughout this video. So yeah, let's just get into it.
Super Mario Sunshine at its core is a game about.
We're at 2 times speed. I watched it at 2 times speed before recording. Yeah, sorry. Okay, for real, let's go.
Super Mario Sunshine at its core is a game about running, jumping, and spraying stuff. So it should come as no surprise that when you take away one of those 3 things, that the game becomes pretty unplayable.
Ron's dead.
But instead
Okay, I feel like that edit actually wasn't that great. A couple things. Dark Viper RU reference. That's cool. It's kind of weird how so I'm still in the phase of like where I'm absolutely paranoid about crediting every possible thing when, I mean, I guess like crediting it to Dark Viper RU is okay there, but it seems kind of weird to do it like that. And the way I did it, just like have the text scroll on screen with him. But also the joke here is that this would be the challenge run without moving, I think.
But instead of removing one of those aspects, what if we change it out with something else? What if we replace the ability to spray water with flood with, I don't know, something like barrels? Well, that's what I've set off to figure out. Can you beat Super Mario Sunshine by only using barrels?
For the record, modding this actually took forever as well. Because across like pretty much every level in the game, even a lot of levels that weren't included in the run, I went and added in barrels. And then there were obviously the levels where I had custom exceptions with, which we'll get to later. But yeah, this is actually a very time-consuming project to even begin.
Before we can get into this run, I think it would make sense if I explain the rules first. Rule 1, flood may not be used ever. If
Okay, a couple things here. For one, this is not a great way to show rules at the beginning of a challenge run video. You know, it makes intuitive sense. Hey, let's just list out all the rules at once so the viewer can see all of the rules. But it's just not a very engaging way to do it, in my opinion. There are better ways to show the rules without just staying basically on the same screen for the same scream. The sane scream. What is a sane scream? I don't know. I'm talking about the same screen though. So there are better ways to show off rules at the beginning of a challenge run than staying on the same screen for however long, like 30 seconds. Also, you could see just a second ago, for some reason, I was like playing as Mario here. I think I wanted to have a thing where you could like see him running and jumping around and stuff like that, but you don't really notice him because of just how zoomed out it is and plus the bitrate compression. But you can see him grab on the box down here and it actually shakes the whole screen.
flood may not be used ever.
Also, the water looks really weird with YouTube compression. It looks really choppy. But anyways, let's actually go on with the video.
flood is used, then the run will be considered failed. Rule 2. To succeed, I must beat the game without breaking any rules. The game is considered beaten.
By the way, I would at the very least make the rules like a different font or a different color, probably both. How this would actually look. Rule 1, put it on screen like real big with text, and then kind of like show off Mario breaking that rule or something. You know, videos are a visual media format, so I think it's best to take advantage of that and actually, you know, show, don't tell all the time.
Once Mario defeats Bowser. Rule 3. Major skips may only be used if it's the only option. A major skip is defined by something that lets Mario skip a shine sprite or several shine sprites in a non-intended manner. Rule 4. Since barrels appear a whole lot less than they do, I've taken the liberty to custom mod barrels into each level. I'm allowed to mod in as many barrels as I need for any specific level. And finally, there will be some rules that are specific to certain levels for some added difficulty. However, instead of overloading you guys on rules right now, we'll just cross that bridge once we get there. That's enough talking. Let's get into some gameplay.
Dude, this by the way,
right now, we'll just cross that bridge once we get there. That's enough talking.
This right here, this was a lot of work to get this to look good. So much work to get this to look good, and for what, a 1 second clip, that happens a lot on my channel.
Talking. Let's get into some gameplay. So, starting off at the airstrip, of course, my first plan of action was to get rid of all the goop. And of course, after that, I decided to try and spawn the polluted piranha. And already, I hit my first roadblock. You see, to spawn a polluted piranha, you have to keep dealing consecutive damage to the goop mound thing.
I think this is where the goop mound thing, like, running bit started. Yeah.
If it stops flashing red, then its hit points get reset. This is, of course, normally trivial when using Flood, but we don't have that luxury. In fact, when using barrels, it's pretty much impossible to awaken the polluted piranha by throwing barrels at it. So instead, I decided to try a new strategy that basically revolved around bursting 2 barrels at once, which failed. I then tried
Yeah, that failed precisely because of the whole like timing thing I was just talking about.
A modified version of that strategy, which also failed, but also resulted in a happy accident. You see how I broke open those 2 barrels without even picking them up? After a bit of testing, I learned that if you have some momentum when going to pick up a barrel, that they'll actually just break open instantly. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is just like not a known piece of tech until then, or like it probably was known to some degree, but it's just like something that's just so unimportant and trivial, like why even bother giving it the spotlight until we come to this specific challenge one where this piece of tech of instantly breaking barrels is actually really useful. It's also pretty hard.
Fortunately, the window to do this is a little precise. You see, if you press the B button too early, then Mario will slide, then bonk onto the barrel, which is no good.
Dive, not slide.
And if you press B too late, then Mario will lose all of his momentum because, you know, there's a barrel in the way. And of course, Mario will then just pick up the barrel. Fortunately though, while it's still fairly precise, it's really not that hard to pull off consistently. And
it's weird to me. I thought that I was like giving an energetic like voice performance here. Clearly I wasn't. It's one of those weird YouTube things. Like you hear almost every creator who's been, you know, doing YouTube for many years, which I've been doing it for like 4-5 years, which is scary to think about. But every creator's been doing it for a couple of years. They always talk about how it changes their voice. And it's true. It changes your voice, dude. It's so weird.
And after a few tries, I was able to awaken the polluted piranha with this setup. Moving on to the polluted piranha itself.
After a few tries, yeah, that took me like a while to get. First of all, a while to figure out like the piece of tech, and then once again, a while to actually get it to work.
The fight went exactly as you'd expect. I just threw barrels at it, nothing interesting. I then collected my shine sprite, then moved on to the plaza. The first Delfino Plaza polluted piranha was similar yet different to the one from the airstrip. For starters, the swoop and stews made it a bit more difficult, especially because their goop actually presents a hazard for not just Mario, but the barrels themselves. I never knew this before now, but barrels actually sink into goop.
I never knew this before now, but barrels actually sink into goop. Meanwhile, you rewind like 60 seconds and there's a barrel sinking into the goop on the airstrip. Sentences are hard. There's a barrel sinking into the goop at the airstrip. Yeah, it's just a cool little interaction.
Which actually makes too much sense.
Yeah.
And to top it all off, since this goop mound...
Oh, fun fact about this shot. First of all, you can see like the weird water reflection thing happening.
Since this...
If you look at the pineapple pool in the background, you can see like the goop reflecting in it. just because it's a weird like free cam thing. Also, this shot might look like kind of like darker, maybe a bit weirder to you. And that's because I was in free cam. I no longer had the like darkness filter on, if that makes sense, that the Plaza has at this state. So the Plaza was like full bright when I was doing this shot. So I tried to correct it and make it look as good as possible. And this is what came out.
Mound thing actually emits goop around it. I couldn't get the barrels as close to it as I would have liked. So instead, I basically played a game of RNG because the barrel's water spread is completely random for much, much too long. What you're watching is at 10 times speed and isn't even half of the time I spent doing this.
Yeah, not even a quarter. This took like a long time because I think I was trying to minimize save state usage or something. I don't really remember. I think it's because you couldn't get the barrels that close. You just had to rely on RNG so much with this strategy. And the goobas would occasionally swoop in and break your barrel or pop on the barrel, and then the barrel would sink in goop. So it was just very tedious. One other thing I would like to say, I used fast forwarded footage a lot in this video. I knew it kind of looked unpleasant, but I didn't really know how bad it actually looked until what was it? The floor is lava? I think it was the floor is lava, where I asked a friend to look over the video and give any criticisms before I actually uploaded it. They basically were like, this is like actually really unpleasant to look at. So yeah, fast forwarded footage has its place, I think, but whenever you see like in new videos, if I show fast forwarded footage, the footage like zooms out as it fades away. It's for that reason. It makes it just better on the eye.
I, however, was eventually able to barely awaken the Pluto Prana to my luck. And of course,
barely.
This fight wasn't much more different than the one from the airstrip. Now, what comes next is what would easily become one of the most tedious themes of this run, Shadow Mario. So not only does the water from the barrels sometimes just refuse to hit Shadow Mario.
That's not a barrel only problem. I actually covered this later in the video, but yeah, that's not a barrel only problem.
But they also do very little damage to him. And, well, it's probably just best to show you again at 10 times speed.
Yeah. This lasts way too long. It's very uncomfortable to look at. Not very uncomfortable, just slightly.
But then, finally...
And also just creates a space of like nothing happening, which I think isn't that bad. But given that, especially back then, my voice cadence was a lot slower and more monotone, I think I should have really been looking to bring up the energy level rather than take it down.
After too much time spent, I was able to take Shadow Mario out. I then chased him to the Pianta statue, had a really pathetic attempt at a quick M, then had to use a unique setup to actually open the M portal. So now that I'm in Bianca 1, now is actually a great time to explain one of the more niche rules I put into place. Since there are a lot of levels in Sunshine that don't necessarily require Flood, but really just need you to get from point A to point B, I decided that for all of those A to B levels, that a restriction would be in place that requires Mario to take a barrel from point A to point B. It's not important that Mario is carrying the barrel the whole time, but it's important that the barrel is taken to point B with Mario.
Yeah, to explain that in a slightly better way, there are just a lot of levels you don't need to pick up a barrel in. I thought that forcing Mario to always be carrying a barrel in those levels would just make the run more interesting, make it more of a barrel-only challenge run than anything else.
This isn't like a hard rule, so the challenge won't fail if I can't do this, but it's a restriction that I will always do if I am able to.
Yeah.
And in the case of Bianca 1, this actually means a barrel must be carried from spawn all the way up to PD.
Yeah, this is, I don't remember. I think this was one of, if not the last major video I did in the original program I edited on. Well, sort of the original program. Which was Adobe Premiere Rush, and very, very limited program on what you could do. This was one of the shots I had to make a lot of compromises with. This would have been trivial for me to do nowadays, but in DaVinci Resolve. But what I wanted to do was just have the line like draw across like the path I had to take to get to PD, right? But what I had to do instead was just fade two images on top of each other. Actually, I might still have that image. I don't like clean out my videos image folder. So here's my videos image folder. You'll see a lot of stuff from very old videos, and even like a lot of stuff from the CSGO days in here. Oh yeah, here it is right here. Yeah, here it is. This is the image that it starts with, and this is the image that pans over it. They look identical here. So I don't know what the issue was, because in this video you can see that it's kind of weird. Maybe I zoomed in a little bit more or something.
This actually means a barrel.
Yeah, you can see there's a weird like layering thing happening here.
It must be carried from spawn
There's like a scan line almost.
all the way up to PD Piranha. I actually had a few challenging jumps up the windmill since I'm now not only without Flood, but also Mario's dive. This jump was mostly just hard because the camera keeps the windmill in the center, and I'm not particularly used to spin jumps that aren't in the forward direction.
Yeah, I feel like that's not an understandable sentiment if you're not a speedrunner, or you're just somebody who doesn't use spin jumps, but like 9.99999 out of 10 times when you spin jump in this game, especially when you're like first learning, it's you spin the control stick and end with the control stick in the forward direction. So for some reason, translating that to like to the side or diagonal was like kind of hard for me.
But after a few attempts, I made it across the gap. And of course, the jump that immediately followed was also of some difficulty since it was
This one is
basically made for you to hover around. But
this one I had a harder time with. It's actually not that hard, but it still is pretty challenging.
after trying some more questionable strategy.
That questionable strategy right there was why this was so hard for me, because I committed to trying that strategy for some reason, and then realized how stupid I was when I looked back at the footage.
I was able to make it across with some YCam shenanigans. And now it was time for my first barrel-only boss battle, none other than PD Piranha. Now this fight
Was this where I started using Pokemon boss battle music? I think so. I really love that for videos.
went pretty much as I expected. The only thing that took me a little by surprise was how hard it became to manage keeping the surrounding area clean enough to avoid the various hazards like the stupid stews and the piranha plants, while also still filling PD up.
That's where the filling PD up bit came from. How many videos have I done that in? Not like a crazy amount. For some reason, I just like, I don't think I even do this on purpose. Like, I don't think, oh, I'm making a callback to an ongoing bit. I just like will write in the script, filling PD up, and then just like move on from it. It's just like a crutch bit, I guess. But now it's reoccurring, so it probably it probably will keep happening in future videos.
Guys, it was mostly just making sure I threw barrels in the right places at the right time. While the fight overall was pretty tedious, it also wasn't mind-numbing. It was actually kind of fun and certainly a hell of a lot more involved than the normal speedrun strats for PD. Now, moving on to Bianco 3, the only real difficulty
right there, I don't think I ever really went into detail about that stupid mechanic. Let's see if I can just rewind a second here. But it's if you land on a slope and try jumping, it depends on the slope type, I think. But yeah, it's if you land on a slope and try jumping, Mario will just automatically throw the barrel, or the barrel will pop for some reason. Very strange.
To Bianco 3, the only real difficulty was getting up to the cave itself, but after using this path for the first time probably ever, I was able to enter the secret, which itself was just slower than usual, if anything. Skipping Bianco 4, since it was pretty uninteresting, was Bianco 5. And man, PD went from being kinda interesting to real boring real quick. But before I actually get into that fight, I first
Cool shot. I love this one a lot.
have to go over waking up PD first. As it stands, it's impossible to actually wake him up with a barrel. The only way to wake him up is with these little guys, which of course uses Flood. Maybe. Shooting one of them off actually doesn't drain your tank at all, so it's up to you individually as a viewer to decide if this fails the challenge or not. Be sure
I'm still on the fence about that, honestly.
to leave me a comment telling me what you think about this.
Challenge because
Anyway,
you are cring.
Guys, after waking
Awesome.
up PD, the first challenge showed itself. How to actually get PD onto the ground. He doesn't fly low enough to pop a barrel on the ground, and barrels don't seem to break on contact with him either.
What was that pathetic attempt? No, I didn't even throw that at him.
Fly low enough to pop a barrel on the ground, and barrels don't seem to break on contact with him either, so I had to come up with something. After some time, I found out that if I got lucky, I could break a barrel on this rooftop
I'm now questioning if barrels actually wouldn't pop on PD.
to bring him down. And what ensued afterwards was basically the same as the first fight, as one could expect. They rinsed and repeated, tried to rinse and repeat again, but got stuck.
I remember this was mind-numbing. A lot of mind-numbing RNG. That happened a lot in this run. I think to keep myself entertained during this run, I would like binge watch the Chuckle Sandwich podcast, or listened, I guess. I think that's what I did.
on this rope and let PD fly away, but I eventually was able to take him down. Now, you don't really get to see the full extent of this since I have to keep the pace for the video, but just know since that where PD decides to fly is RNG based and the barrel water spread is also RNG based, this fight took frustratingly long to complete. It was 90% just waiting. Anyways, after PD was the second secret level of Bianco Hills, and oh boy did the game have a field day with me here. The challenge of this level was to land upon these logs, but since I don't have flood or
Yeah, just in case when I said land upon these logs, just in case you weren't sure that it was these logs I was talking about, like, you know, the 4 that are in frame, that are the only logs in the frame, just in case you weren't sure.
this level was to land upon these logs.
These, like, these, you know? Right there. Those are the logs I'm talking about, believe it or not. So, yeah.
But since I don't have flood or Mario's
Oh my gosh, you guys are tilted. Hold on. Okay, there we go.
dive, the only way to make it to those logs is to spin jump from the windmill. And spin jumping off the windmill is a challenge because the camera forces you to make the jump blind. And let me show you what that meant for me with this montage.
Yeah, I think I wanted to include audio here, but I either didn't have it because of like recording reasons or because of I was listening to the Chuckle Sandwich podcast.
Finally, after too many attempts, I made it. I then made 3 careful
I think I could nowadays, if I approached this challenge, I could have figured out a more consistent way to land on the logs like a bit sooner.
jumps, then entered the secret. It was a cakewalk. Finally, it was time for Shadow Mario. Let me redo that line. Finally, it was time for Shadow Mario. Much better. My only saving grace
Love
here
that
was
bit.
that I was able to manipulate his AI to go between these 2 points, which certainly made his movements a lot more predictable. But on the downside, that made this all the more repetitive, as I can show you by this small sample of the overall experience. Eventually, I got to a
Mind-numbing.
point where Shadow Mario was no longer taking damage from my barrels. And this was beyond a fluke, so I knew something was up.
Yeah, this is where I learned about this thing I'm about to show. This like just mind-boggling thing that I think unironically this is the worst thing about Mario Sunshine.
It turns out, when you take him down to 0 hit points, you have to deal damage to him when he's on the move. Otherwise, he won't faint or trip or whatever he does when you defeat him. Anyways, I took him down and it was time to move on
I just hate that he's invulnerable inexplicably during most of his animations. It's just stupid. Why? There's no reason.
from Bianco. Next was the polluted piranha that gatekeeps Rico Harbor, and well, I had a lot of trouble with it. I couldn't get barrels remotely close to the goop mound thing.
This was, I think, the only... Sorry, I just... Is there goop in Rico? LOD? Is there like the dark goop in Rico? If so, that's a cool attention to detail. I don't think so. I think it's just like a mix of YouTube compression and it being like really dark up there because of this like fade that YouTube puts at the top when your video is paused. Yeah, anyways, I think that this was pretty much the only example of using free cam with weird water reflections was actually helpful to making a cool shot.
A lot of trouble with it. I couldn't get barrels remotely close to the goop mound thing, since it keeps a consistent perimeter of goop around it that'll just suck my barrels into it. I tried many things, including just throwing barrels in vain. I then decided I wanted to see if I could do damage to it from under, so I went to the beach and tried to do the walk underwater glitch when this happened. Yeah, so for some reason, the beach counts as goop or something when the lighthouse is beneath its
Part of me wonders if this is an emulator bug. It might be.
weird goop mound thing. However, at
Because Dolphin Emulator is really weird with how Sunshine does goop, unless you have the exact perfect settings enabled.
the complete opposite side of the
Oops.
beach, I was able to properly place the barrel down and get myself underwater. I made my way over to the weird goop mound thing, and for testing purposes, decided to see if I could deal damage to it with flood, which I couldn't. And for safety, I also tested it with a barrel, but to no avail. I tried one more thing before I had to just take a break. During my break, I fused a non-
Dude, this is... I try this every time. For the last... How is this? 2 years? 3 years. Also, funny thing right here. This doesn't show up like this in YouTube Studio, so if you watch my old videos and you're like, why did he cross out? Click show more for links and timestamps. It's just because like a weird YouTube Studio thing. But anyways, I don't know how I did this. I don't know how I wasn't recording because I was just like goofing around in the game. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to take up my drive space. So I didn't record when I placed down the coconut. But luckily I was like, oh my god, I just fused 2 coconuts randomly. I'm going to start recording so I can show this off. I don't know how I did this. I don't know what I did. I've tried it again and again. I've tried to recreate the exact setup here. I must have done something like float precision perfect or something.
Fused 2 coconuts, stacked barrel.
And look, I couldn't put it back down after immediately picking up as well. So yeah, it's crazy.
Before I had to just take a break. During my break, I fused and unfused 2 coconuts, stacked barrels on top of their collision skews, and did some sick movement practice.
That's how I learned GWKs right there on that house. It's a really good practice spot if you ever want to learn GWKs. Glitchy wall kicks is what that stands for.
Yes. Afterwards, I came up with a new idea, which I tested with a moon jump hack. I wanted to see if I could somehow drop a bunch of barrels out of the boathouse interior, which, if you didn't know, is physically above the boathouse. But barrels, unfortunately, sank into the invisible ground up there, so it was a no-go. So
I think what I wanted to do was bring like 1,000 barrels up there, and then just keep like throwing them out or something.
Finally, I gave in and used Flood to awaken the polluted piranha. But don't worry, because I still used barrels to kill it.
Weird wording there. But don't worry, because I still used barrels to kill it. I feel like that wording implies that I didn't actually fail the challenge run, but right there I failed the challenge run. Right there was where there was no way around it. I had to use Flood. So I think like what I was trying to say was that I only used Flood when it was absolutely necessary, and immediately as soon as it wasn't necessary, I went back to using barrels. Yeah, I don't think anyone got confused by that, but it might be the case that somebody did while watching this. Nobody left a comment about it, I don't think so.
And after using a slightly modified setup to open the M portal, I was finally in Rico Harbor. Aside from this funny animation and this jump that required the use of a GWK, or
I guess that probably does require it, but that was a bad spin jump. Basically, it's kind of hard to tell, but sometimes when you're doing a spin jump, Mario will enter the side flip animation, like where he quick turns around, and that wrecks your speed, which is important for jumping because 1, you're predicting you're not gonna all of a sudden have 0 momentum when you jump. And 2, the height Mario gets out of jumps is partially a function of his vertical speed. So the faster you're going, the higher you'll jump. So this actually might be possible without a GWK, I'm not sure.
required the use of a GWK, or glitchy wall kick. There wasn't much in the way between Mario and Gooper Blooper, and once in the fight, as with PD, it went pretty much as you'd expect it to go with barrels. I threw barrels at GB, used the C-run strats to deal damage early, and got out with a brand new shiny shine.
I don't know if this is an issue for anyone else who makes like challenge run videos and stuff like that. I always feel awkward saying the name of the boss more than twice in a row. It just always feels awkward. So you'll notice I do this a lot in this video. Like there's a funny one later on with King Boo, where I'll like just vary the name I call them. Like I'll say Gooper Blooper, then I'll say GB, then I'll say like Goop Bloop. I don't know, it just feels awkward to me saying the full name every time. In pretty much every video, especially past this point, when I have to say the name of a boss more than once in a row, you'll hear me saying like nicknames and various different nicknames at that. It's funny. It's like a very weird problem.
Sprite. Rico 2 was the exact same as intended, pretty much, and so was Rico 3, except I did have to think about my pathing. Rico 4 was easy.
That was a weird clip to show for thinking about your pathing, or having to think about my pathing. Basically, what I meant there was that I couldn't pick up the rocket nozzle and use it, obviously. I had to be a bit more deliberate about where I went on the scaffolding because I didn't have a jump, I didn't have a dive, I did have a jump. I didn't have flood, I didn't have a dive, I didn't have ledge grabs or anything like that. So the path I took was pretty specific and took me all like around the scaffolding. Probably was inefficient, I don't know. I don't really remember the exact path I took, but yeah, that's the story of why I said that.
Except I did have to think about my pathing. Rico 4 was easy, and the only thing of note with Rico 5 is that I got to see attacks I actually completely forgot Gooper Blooper had. Skipping.
Yeah. Weird. Don't know if I've seen those attacks since. It's so weird to me. Gooper Blooper is such a pushover. Gooper Blooper is even a pushover if you're not speedrunning. Like, but they gave him these like weird extra attacks for some reason. It's so weird. Which, by the way, he doesn't have those extra attacks when you refight him in Noki. The Gooper Blooper you refight in Noki is, I think, identical to the one you fight in Rico 1. Obviously, it's a placeholder. Maybe they meant to have another boss up there or something. It's just weird.
Rico 6, as it wasn't any different, is of course Rico 7, aka Shadow Mario. Yay. It was the same as any other Shadow Mario level. After Rico, I decided to go the vanilla route and continue onto Gelato Beach, since the Lighthouse Polluted Piranha had the same obstacles.
Oh, dude. So, okay, there's actually a bit of a story behind this clip right here. I wasn't recording when I first came over here, because I would just like recording clips and only like start recording when I'd start attempting something. So I was just moving over to the barrels, and I did this like, I was just completely zoned, not really paying attention to what I was doing, and I was still new to like YCam movement and stuff in Mario Sunshine. So I did exactly
After Rico, I
this.
decided to go the vanilla route and continue onto
That like kind of cool jump off the wall YCam around the corner like that. Like it looks cool. It's kind of flashy, especially if you don't play the game like that much. I think Y-turn movement, when you're not somebody who's spent, you know, hundreds of hours using it, it looks really flashy, like almost under any circumstance. And sorry, gotta stretch. Also, by the way, Naruto shirt reveal. I've never watched a single episode of Naruto or consumed any Naruto media at all. Anyways, I was like, oh my gosh, that looked really cool. I need to get a clip of that. And then I didn't really understand like the angle at which I jumped off the wall made the YCam movement look a lot better. Because what I think I tried doing is re-recording it and jumping straight at the wall and trying to do it, but because you're jumping straight at the wall, Mario's also rebounding straight off the wall, so it makes the YCam movement around the corner not look as smooth and stuff. You have to come at it from an angle, and it took me a bunch of times re-recording it, and I got very frustrated trying to get this like very basic but flashy clip that I didn't need. I just thought, man, I really need a clip of me doing that, and eventually I got it. But yeah, just a weird like little bonus story about this clip that this otherwise B-roll, like just unassuming clip, actually has this like 30 minutes of story behind it.
The vanilla route and continue onto Gelato Beach. Since the Lighthouse Polluted Piranha had the same obstacles as the Boathouse one, I had to use Flood to awaken it and unlock Gelato. Almost. I actually had a ton of trouble with getting the M portal to open up. After about half an hour of trying over and over with save states, I decided to cave and just open it with Flood. I'm sure there is some way to open up the portal floodless, but I couldn't figure it.
Yeah.
No.
I should have tallied all the times I failed the challenge and like said it either at the end of the video, just had an on-screen count or something. I still stand by that. I think there is a way to open up this portal without failing the challenge. I just don't know what it is.
As for Gelato Beach, it, much like Rico Harbor, was pretty boring and uninteresting, minus a few small things. For instance, you can see that Doom Buds get instantly activated with barrels, which I actually wasn't expecting. However, one major difference between Rico and Gelato is that, as far as I'm aware, Gelato is not beatable with barrels. You see in Mirror Madness, Tilt, Slam, Bam! It's pretty much impossible to get these Cataquack imposters off of the mirrors. I tried many things until I conceded and used Flood, killed Wig.
I don't know. I feel like I could have tried harder. Part of the reason is that there are a couple things in this challenge run that I thought were impossible after like a bunch of tries, but then came back to the next day and it turned out it actually wasn't impossible. So I don't know, that's kind of contentious to me. I don't know if Gelato 2 is actually impossible. You probably just had to get kind of lucky.
Wiggler, got my prize, then went to kill Franken Wiggler. Which, by the way, the Wiggler boss battle was actually sort of made easier by the barrels since, like I said before, they instantly activate the Doom Buds. Skipping the Sandbird, I absolutely demolished Piantissimo, what's new, then fought Shadow Mario after doing the 8 red coins, which I'm also skipping. Gelato Shadow Mario was perhaps the most tedious. Yeah,
slightly confusing wording there. I was saying I was skipping Rico 6, or not Rico 6, Gelato 6. Not skipping Gelato 7, which this is the episode.
Was only a small portion of the overall fight. Anyways, it's time for Pinna Park, which...
Dude, I don't know why that's really funny to me, seeing like, it's time for Pinna Park and they cut to the barrel on the ground that I'm unable to pick up.
Small portion of the overall fight. Anyways, it's time for Pinna Park, which opened up with a mandatory failure. Not only is the only way to damage Mecha Bowser done with water rockets, but they also use up water from Flood's tank. Oh yeah, and if it isn't obvious, there's absolutely no way to carry a barrel on the roller coaster anyways. But past that, and
I do wonder if there's some way to mod that in.
Skipping Pinna 2 was Pinna 3. This level actually provided a few platforming challenges, along with another funny animation. One of the more challenging aspects was jumping and grabbing onto this grate, but once I did, I pressed the wrong button and jumped off. Luckily, anticipating my own stupidity, I made a save state before I jumped off and was able to grab my red coin after pressing the correct button.
I feel like it's possible to get that red coin just like by jumping off and pressing forward. Like I didn't have to go all the way around. Although of course I would have to reclimb up, so maybe it's not smart. I don't know.
And this last red coin took some brain power to get as well, but once I figured it out, it was time for the
I actually felt so smart for that, using the what's it called, the ship for that. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a way to hang on this grate with a barrel. I cover this a bit later in the video. When you're carrying something in Sunshine, specifically barrels, obviously in this case, you can't just like grab onto the roof of like clamberable fences like grates. You can't just like grab on from the bottom. You have to go through a flip panel. You can do it on the sides of clamberable surfaces, like as I've shown a couple of times in the videos. You don't have to do it through a flip panel. I'm not even sure how you would without being able to grab onto it. But yeah, for some reason ceilings, you have to go through a flip panel. You can't jump up onto while carrying something.
last red coin took some brain power to get as well.
Oh, actually, I was wrong. There isn't a way to clamber through. Okay, so yeah, this is probably the best way to get that red coin.
But once I figured it out, it was time for the next level. After I collected the Shine Sprite in an absolutely epic manner.
Yeah, for some reason I just wanted to jump off the top of the Ferris wheel for that Shine Sprite. I don't know why. And that was absolutely epic to me.
The Snooza Koopas in Pinna 4 were pretty easy, but Pinna 5 is where I'd encounter my first real challenge. Throughout this playthrough, most of everything had been pretty easy and mostly tedious, but getting up to the giant Electro Koopa was not easy and tedious, but it was actually a bit hard, but unfortunately still tedious. So basically, to get up to the top, I had to keep making use of I actually don't know what this movement tech is called, but it's basically a GWK but from grates. In other words, I got into Y-cam just before I jumped, which makes Mario jump the opposite way than he's supposed to.
For the record, this was probably the third hardest thing in this challenge run, potentially second.
This was incredibly useful for circumnavigating the use of FLUDD. However, I hit a roadblock. You see, this next jump was simply too big to cross.
I actually wonder if that's actually true. There might be a way to make that jump, especially if I had a barrel nearby. I could throw one and then pick another one up and quickly go up there. I'm not sure though.
Luckily, there's actually a super easy way to get past that jump, which is to just walk around it, basically. I actually forgot you could get behind the Ferris wheel from this way, so this was a little unexpected for me. After doing a simple spin jump followed by a Y turn, I was able to get Mario onto the grid. The first thing to do was to get...
Why they cut off the sentence early there? I said gray, not great. Like, that's just weird.
rid of the Electro Koopa blocking my way, so I had to take out the other Electro Koopa.
That's funny. I didn't even touch on this, but yeah, you can still punch on grates when you're carrying a barrel, so, or effectively punch anyways.
So I could do that. Once the way was cleared, I clambered over to the other side where I encountered the hardest jump yet. No, not this one, but this one. I basically had to find a way to get from the green area to the area above. Now, this jump took far more tries than I'm gonna show, but after getting a perfect timing on this movement tech that I still...
This is part of why I question if the jump down below actually was possible, because I think there are certain like timings of like the great GWKs give you more distance or something. I'm not really sure what it is. There's some stuff where you can get more height, get more distance out of it. And the important thing here was that I had to do GWK because, as you saw in the earlier clip, if I didn't, then I'd just jump into the Electric Koopa and get shocked. And either way, I probably would have had to go into Y-cam anyways, because there's weird interactions with grates where if you touch a grate, but not from head on or close to head on, then Mario will grab onto it for a second, but then let go or something like that. I might be getting that slightly wrong, but yeah, there's some weird interactions.
Still don't know what to call. I made it up to the next area, and after another jump,
yeah, so that jump is actually really, it looks way harder than it does. Let's watch it one more time to appreciate it.
Movement tech that I...
There it is. Perfect rewind right there. Yeah, it looks way more difficult than you'd think.
Yo, Editing Max here. I have absolutely no clue why I have the inability to speak basic sentences, so let me clear up the confusion right here, right now. I meant to say that jump is more difficult than you'd think, not more difficult than it looks. Anyways, back to the video.
But this is actually one of the things I learned from this challenge run. I just realized I've been sitting like this, like half the video. Oh my gosh, dude. I've been sitting like this the entire time, talking directly into the mic. Jesus. But yeah, anyways, as I was saying, really hard jump. That's one of the benefits of this challenge run. It kind of forced me to get comfortable with GWK timings. Like, I don't think about this very often, but this run, like, kind of taught me GWKs in a lot of ways.
Still don't know.
Also, Y-turn movement, because Y-turn movement is so important in this challenge run for a lot of jumps.
What to call. I made it up to the next area, and after another jump, I could utilize a spin jump to get to the giant Electro Koopa. Now, it took me a
Yeah, that spin jump there, by the way, I didn't cover this in the video, but I'm pretty sure I really complicated it at first for the first like 5 to 10 minutes and then realized, oh wait, I can just spin jump. Oops.
while to figure out that I could just, drop the barrel to kill this guy. I haven't highlighted this yet, but the only way to grab onto a grate from below while holding a barrel is to use one of the panels, meaning you can't just jump and grab hold of a grate that's above Mario while he's carrying a barrel. After pin 5 and skipping pin 6 because it was easy, I took out Shadow Mario as usual. Now, moving into Serena Beach, I actually used a barrel clip to get into Serena because I couldn't be bothered to steal Yoshi from Shadow Mario.
It was cooler too that way. I would have sat down and stomached Shadow Mario had it not been for the fact like, oh, I'm doing the barrel only challenge run and using barrels to do Serena whenever is kind of cool. So yeah, this was back when I was really bad at Serena whenever, by the way. This was when I still thought it was dependent on quarter frames and stuff like that, which if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it.
And this is how I entered Serena for each episode. And much like Pinna Park, Serena Beach had an auto-fail right in the first episode.
This is so bizarre to me. I still don't get this.
It is absolutely beyond me as to why Nintendo did this, but the Manta Ray can only take damage from Flood's water and not water from barrels. Considering that barrels work for goop, damaging enemies, opening end portals, etc., this was just kind of bizarre.
Yeah, it makes it seem like it's a hard-coded behavior. The Manta is a weird enemy, I guess. There's no enemy quite like the Manta in this game, especially how it works like technically. So maybe that has to do with it, but I don't know, man. It's so weird, and this just wasn't where I was expecting to have an auto-fail in this run.
So I had to open fire on the Manta and then move on to the next level.
I do partially wonder if there's like a hitbox thing with it happening,
which we're gonna skip because it's boring. As for Serena 3, I learned that you can't clip to the Shine Sprite without using a barrel.
Without using a barrel? You mean with using a barrel? Oops. Slight misspeak there. I almost misspoke the word misspeak, which would have been funny. I, back in the day, was notorious for forgetting which direction to hold the control stick when doing the clip here. Part of me does wonder if I was holding the wrong direction or something, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't. I'm pretty sure this clip does need a banana.
So I had to do it the old-fashioned way.
And I don't know why.
Except using barrels, of course.
This way was cooler anyways.
The second thing I learned from this episode is that this is supposed to be a mirror. For some reason, it turns black when Mario jumps through it, but it turns back into a...
Oh, interesting. I've been looking a lot into Sunshine's code recently because of making chaos. And I noticed that there was a functionality for a mirror version of Mario or like something like that, and I just figured, oh, this must be left over from Super Mario 64 because of like the mirror Mario that's in Mario 64. Sunshine has a lot of leftover stuff from 64 / reused. I guess maybe that's what this is for, reflecting Mario in this mirror. Actually, interesting connection. Also, yeah, this mirror is just like completely broken as I'm going over here.
A mirror somehow. And after playing an extended game of RNG, I got Yoshi, opened the pool, went back for a barrel, then collected the shine. Turns black when Mario jumps through it, but it turns back into a mirror somehow. And after playing...
I called this an extended game of RNG when Serena 4 is in the next episode. Okay.
An extended game of RNG, I got Yoshi, opened the pool, went back for a barrel, then collected the Shine Sprite with a barrel in hand. And we go to the casino. Oh boy. The casino absolutely 100%
bad syncing.
Sucked ass.
So I don't know why I was trying to do individual syllables there. It would have looked like way better if I didn't do individual syllables. But even if I did do individual syllables, I could have done that a lot better these days.
First were the slot machines. The one on the right, which theoretically should act the same as normal, took way too many tries to get a 777. As for the broken slot machine, it sucked even more. To my discredit though, I kind of tried to just brute force it at first. I then tried in vain to see if there was a way to do casino skip with a barrel, which if there is, I couldn't find it. After that, I went back to the broken slot machine and with a strategy and save states was able
Why did I emphasize the word broken? I guess because out of disdain, or maybe I emphasized the word broken because, I mean, it is the broken slot machine, but yeah, it's weird.
To get a 777, only to be rewarded with hell itself.
That's a fire line. Only to be rewarded with hell itself.
So long.
It took me
so long to complete this. I'm of course gonna spare you the tedium, but just know that this took me well over 2 hours. I even tried with
Yeah, it took me about 2 Chuckle Sandwich podcasts to get through this. That's how I remember I was listening to the Chuckle Sandwich podcast a lot while playing through this because of that.
resorting to barrel stacking, which again was in vain. So I sucked it up, and finally, after so many tries, got lucky enough to unlock the warp pipe.
Yeah, by the way, I was using save states right here. Imagine if I wasn't.
And of course, the secret was infinitely easier. And then King Boo, like every other boss up to this point, went exactly as you'd expect. The only mildly difficult part was that he kept spawning boos, but still that wasn't really that hard. I promptly beat Bing Ku, and
That's the funny one. I was talking about Bing Ku instead of King Boo. Don't know where that came from, but I call them Bing Ku.
moved on to Serena 6. It wasn't too hard, although I did die once. And finally, for Serena was Shadow Mario, who for once wasn't completely mind-numbing. I accidentally found a way to dump almost all the water from the barrel onto him at once, so that actually sped things up considerably. Now, skipping past Noki 1, the only interesting thing about Noki 2 was this race I had to do. Sure, I could have put a barrel closer to the shifting wall thing, but it was more fun that way. Otherwise, Noki 2 was as easy as usual, and as for Noki 2...
Okay, I didn't really describe this very well, or show it very well. So what I'm talking about here, opening this panel right here, that the barrel is flying towards on the left side of the screen. And then, of course, it only stays open for a limited amount of time. So what I wanted to do was open it, then go back for a barrel, then come back over here, because I thought it would just be more fun that way. Because I was reaching the point in this challenge run where I was kind of doing a lot more self-imposed challenges and stuff like that, because it was like kind of just easy. Or not exactly easy, but it was easy in terms of like execution and stuff. Of course, when it comes to difficulty, there's more than one thing that goes into figuring out the difficulty of anything. And one of those things would be like patience and stuff. Like I consider patience to be something that should factor into the difficulty rating of something. And patience was... Oh, someone just subscribed. Thank you. Hold up. We're gonna get a personal thank you over to whoever just subscribed. Give me a second. Well, Super Luigi 164. Thank you for subscribing in the middle of this video. This person will probably never see this. But yeah, anyways, I was finding ways to challenge myself outside of just patience in this run, and this is one of the things I did to do that, was just throwing the barrel, running back to get the barrel by spawn, and come back and wall jump through.
Skipping past Noki 1, the only interesting thing about Noki 2 was this race I had to do.
Why did I skip past Noki 1? Noki 1 seems like it would be kind of interesting. Maybe not though. Seems like it would be more interesting than Noki 2. I don't remember it, so I guess maybe it wasn't interesting. Also, by the way, I'm thinking about it, I probably could have gotten up there, like up to King Boo, or not King Boo, Cooper Blooper, without using the panels here. I probably could have still gone up like the Noki 1 route, but instead of doing spring clip, actually interesting thing. I wonder if there was a way to do spring clip while carrying a barrel. Probably not.
Sure, I could have put a barrel closer to the shifting wall thing, but it was more fun that way. Otherwise, Noki 2 was as easy as usual, and as for Noki 3, I actually slightly moved Mario's spawn so I could pick up a barrel.
BRB real quick. Absolutely no time passed for you, but I just took a quick break. Anyways, back to the video.
Before entering the bottle. Minus me almost killing Mario due to my own inability to make simple jumps, I'm actually super glad I moved his spawn since I got to see this beautiful monstrosity of an animation.
I'm glad I did this for no reason but just to do it.
And as for the bottle itself, I learned something pretty important, which is that Mario cannot pick up barrels while he's in his deep underwater state. I, however, was still able to collect the red coins using a bastardized version of the hoverless strats. And then, moving on to the eel, yeah, as you could probably expect by the fact that Mario can't pick up barrels while he's in his deep underwater state, I unfortunately had to...
Could have just said, as you could expect by what I just said, instead of re-saying the same thing again, like 5 seconds later.
Failed the challenge once again to kill, or rather help Yeely mouth. After that, I decimated Piantissimo, but then encountered a rather challenging jump in Noki 6. After learning I could do a wall slide on that small piece of geometry, however, I was able to do a fairly precise GWK to make it up and enter the secret. And in the secret, I blundered very hard right before the finish line.
Dude, I don't know why. Noki 6. This is the hardest jump in Noki 6. I swear. I swear this is the hardest jump in Noki 6.
Redoing that secret, it was time for tedious Mario, then time for some epic gaming. You see, what do I mean by epic gaming? You might be asking. Well, you see, to even gain access to Pianta Village, I had to pull a page from the Max % Pacifist book and barrel stack my way up to the top of the Shine Gate. If you're interested to learn more about barrel stacking, be sure to check out my episode of Super Mario Sunshine Experiments on barrels. I don't even mind coming off as unhumble about it. That video is still my highest production quality video, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Anyway,
I think the only reason I said that is because of the music video at the beginning. Honestly, I think this video is the higher production quality overall than that video. They're similar, honestly.
anyways, back to barrel stacking. I took an embarrassingly long time to make it onto my first barrel, and
More with the fast forwarding for no reason.
even got blue ball on one of my attempts. But after many tries, I finally made it onto the barrel. Barrel-y. I then went ahead and got my second barrel in place, and after less tries, but still a lot of tries, I got back onto the first barrel and jumped on the second one and then onto the Shine Gate. As for Pianta 1, it was a cakewalk, as the barrels actually instantly cooled off the chain chomplets. As for Pianta 2, Piantissimo for once actually gave me a run for my money.
That's the second time we said Piantissimo, not Piantissimo. It's not Piantissimo, right? Like,
And actually won twice. But on my third race, I was able to beat him in a photo finish. And as for the Goopy Inferno, it actually was debatably made easier with barrels. I say debatably because while I could skip all of the normal stuff you'd have to do to get to the golden mushroom, I actually had to make a special barrel setup just to get to the top of the mushroom to save the mayor. And even still, the jump took a while to make, especially when I forgot to bring a barrel up to clean the mayor. And even then, that barrel didn't clean all the goop off of him, so I had to get another barrel from spawn, and then just to be safe, since I don't know if this level counted as a point A to point B level, I
don't know if this level kinda does a point A to point B level. I remember hearing that while editing and thinking like, man, I should redo this line, but it's actually kind of funny and people will get what I'm saying, right? So I just left that in. Also, this is one of the most memorable levels for me, just because of having to go back and forth over and over again to spawn back to the golden mushroom over and over again. I don't know. It's very memorable for me for that reason, even though it was like very boring.
grabbed one more barrel to collect the Shine Sprite with. Pianta 4 was easy, so I moved on to Pianta 5, where I made this sick rebound throw with a papaya to get Yoshi. And then, after entering the secret, with a barrel of course, it was time.
I don't know, dude. I feel like my script writing was really unrefined here, but my like jokes were actually kind of good. I don't know. I think they're in some ways better than today when I write jokes into scripts. Scripts. It's just me, or saying script hard, especially plural, because it's script PTS, scripts. I don't know, dude. I have a hard time. I think I have a speech impediment though. So, but yeah, anyways, I just really like that joke because it looks like I'm about to jump in without a barrel, but a hard cut to me jumping with, I don't know, dude. It's cool. I like it.
Down throw with a papaya to get
Very well done joke.
Yoshi. And then, after entering the secret, with a barrel of course, it was time to get serious. So, just to bring everyone up to speed, the way you normally complete the Pianta 5 secret is by talking to these guys, the Chucksters. Once you talk to them,
I feel like everyone knows that. This is like the most memorable thing to people from this game.
they will, well, Chuck Mario.
When people complain about this game, this is the most memorable thing to them. Like, I can prove Super Mario Sunshine is the worst game ever because of Chucksters. And it's just like, okay, so one stage in the entire game. Got it. Okay, rant time, actually. Because this just reminded me of a really stupid thing I heard recently as well. I sent this clip where these three guys were talking about Super Mario Sunshine, like giving a retrospective on it, kind of. Just like a casual, like, retrospective. And one of them sarcastically said, like, I don't even know who these guys were because like it was just a clip sent to me without credit to the original like guys, but one of the guys like sarcastically said, you know, the best thing about Super Mario Sunshine was the 2D side scrolling sections that the camera just doesn't work in. It just completely fails at. MF, what? The 2D side scrolling sections? Huh? In Super Mario Sunshine? Where? Tell me where. The closest thing I can think of is like the windmill. Maybe behind the Ferris wheel. Those two sections of the game aren't 2D side scrolling though. You could argue that they are, you know, you're kind of moving in a 2D plane, sort of. You're moving in the 2D plane relative to the camera anyways. You're not restricted to it and there are other ways to get up. So, and like kind of circumvent the weird camera. So I don't know, dude. People will just say like the most like random shit about Super Mario Sunshine to make a case for why it's the worst game ever and personally was worse than any tragedy you can think of. Like, I don't get it, dude. I don't get it.
the problem here is that this is
Rant over.
is a point A to point B level, and since Mario apparently doesn't know how to talk and hold something at once, my only option quickly became barrel stacking, and lots of it. So I'm obviously not going to show all of the individual barrel stacks I did in this level, but just know that I spent about 3 hours here. The beginning part wasn't too bad, since
Yeah, it took a long time. I got real cozy for this.
I only had to stack 3 barrels before I could make a spin jump to the next platform, and then quickly began stacking more barrels so I could make a jump to the 3rd platform, and well, you get the pattern. That's how it went for the entire time. I claimed my new stack and spin jump to the next platform, and so on and so forth. Although one thing I do want to show you guys was that how precarious this actually was. Here I am on the 3rd platform, barrel stacking my way up to the 4th. And I decided for this specific stack that I would climb up without the use of save states, for the sake of content. Yeah,
So for some reason, that take took me a while to make for the sake of content. Like I couldn't give like a vocal delivery of that the way I wanted to. And nowadays, I probably wouldn't have even delivered it that way. I probably would have said, for the sake of content or something like that. Probably even put a vocal filter on my voice. Which is weird. I've never done anything like that in a video, but that's just how I would think to do it immediately now these days if I read that off a script. So...
subscribe fools. Anyways, this was actually incredible.
Subscribe fools. Wait, you guys are members, so obviously you're subscribed. Thank you.
Really nerve-wracking, and my palms were sweating the entire time, and something mom spaghetti, I don't know. I even almost...
So this is what I'm talking about, dude. I was better at writing jokes into scripts. I'll say it. This video was peak jokes in scripts, Angry Max.
Failed right here, which almost gave me a heart attack. Surprisingly, however, I actually did make it up to the top on my first attempt.
Yeah, basically, I spent 3 hours, if you remember, like I said at the beginning of this video, this whole challenge run was about 10 hours of footage. That's 3/10. That's close to a third of this challenge run was spent in this stage. This stage, I would say, was the hardest one, by the way. Probably. So yeah, I wanted to actually spend some time like lingering on this and showing it off. So that's why I took this part of the video and climbed up the whole barrel tower without taking save states and stuff like that, so that I could actually like show off all the effort I put into this. Or at least some of it.
Anyways, moving on from that, I made a stack to get to the final platform before the shine sprite, and something you may have noticed if you have a sharp eye is that I decided to not put barrels on the final platform. This was purely for some added difficulty and nothing else.
Like I was saying before, when we were at Noki 2, sorry I'm chewing on ice, bad idea for when you're recording. But like I was saying about Noki 2, I started adding things that just like gave me a bit of extra challenge just for the sake of it, and this is one of those things. Like it's only slightly a bit more, but it is a bit more.
Basically, I had to jump back and forth platforms to get barrels for my final stack. And actually, surprisingly, I had to take this a step further because I needed more barrels than I provided on this platform. I had to
Very cool shot.
get back to previous platforms and borrow some
Revealing like, okay, focusing on this stack, but then revealing, or focusing on this like platform of barrels, but then revealing the platform of barrels down there as I'm saying the sentence, so that the viewers, you guys, can kind of put 1 and 2 together about what I'm saying. It took more than this amount of barrels for the last stack.
more barrels than I provided on this platform. I had to get back to previous platforms and borrow some of the barrels I didn't use in order to finish the stack. But once I finished, man oh man, just take a look at this beautiful creation. And with the use of save states, of course, I was able to maneuver Mario to the top with barrel in hand. I then made my jump for freedom, and freedom was what I got. Kind of. I still had more levels to complete for this challenge, of course. But before we move on to those levels, I just want to showcase how I left the Pianta 5 secret looking like. This is among one of my favorite things I've ever been able to do in a video game ever. Okay, now it's time.
Before moving on, I do want to see something. So I wanted to show off, I still have the save state from the Pianta secret. So I wanted to show that off, but it looked like I can't do it. Let's say from file. Here it is right here, Pianta secret barrel stack. Open, doesn't work. I just learned, I didn't know about this. You can undo save states? What? How long have I been using Dolphin? I didn't know about that. I have an older version of Dolphin. I'm gonna boot that up and see if it works. Well, so much for loading up a previous version of Dolphin. I'm soft locked here. I can't exit out of it, but this keeps popping up. Hello? Yo. Just a couple days later, finally got this working. It turns out that my old version of Dolphin, that was the correct version, but all that crashing was happening because of like a graphics plugin thing. But yeah, here we are in the save state. Oh yeah, and sorry I don't have a face cam up. It just was a bit too cumbersome to record for this probably 60 to 120 second long clip. But yeah, here we are, dude. Back at this original save state. Can just go ahead and check everything out. Place that down. Oh, well, okay. Go ahead and stack this barrel. Just for fun. There it is up there. Let's go ahead and get back over here. And yeah, I don't know. This is just so darn cool to me. For old time's sake, let's see if I can climb this. First try. Just like in the video. Oh, dang it. So wait, I swear I had to get back over there somehow. I think what I had to do was this. Yeah. Oof. Okay. And yeah, careful not to bonk on that. Oh, I guess I could have talked to the guy down there too, actually, to get back. I can still talk to the Chucksters, obviously, when I don't have a barrel. But yeah, you might notice this platform is relatively depleted too, and I'm pretty sure it's because I had to take a barrel from here, then, oh right, it's a BCS. Had to then carry it all the way up like so, and then all the way up over there, and then all the way up that stack. Crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy stuff. All right, now let's see something we all have wanted to see for a long time. Which is, oh wait, that doesn't collapse the whole tower. Okay, never mind. Really just cool to see this again and be playing in it. It's such a, like a relic. Kind of like a relic of the Angry Max channel's past, you know? Like a talisman almost. Really cool to still have this, so. Anyways, back to the creator commentary. Anyways, let's continue with the video. I accidentally rewound a little bit, so here we are.
Favorite things I've ever been able to do in a video game ever. Okay, now it's time to move on to Pianta 6. And Pianta 6, unfortunately, had yet another point of failure. You see, with the kid Piantas, I just couldn't clean them fast enough with barrels. With the adult Piantas, you normally only need 2 barrels, maybe 1 if you're lucky. Anyways, after embarrassingly...
Okay, something I'm actually wondering about that. Part of the stipulations of this challenge run is that I'm able to mod in barrels as I see fit. If I took that to a bit more of an extreme, maybe I could just surround the kid Piantas in barrels and just keep ground pounding them. That's one of those things, like, I don't know. That rule felt weird to me the entire time because it felt like cheating. If I find a level to be impossible, to then modify the level to make it possible. But then again, it's part of the run. Like, you have to load in barrels. So I don't know, dude. It's weird. Let's move on.
Missing my shine sprite, I moved on to our final Shadow Mario stage, and oh boy was I ecstatic to never have to do this again.
I shut off that clip because I actually was like so annoyed by that kid Pianta who popped my barrel and then just like soft lock on top of it.
To our final Shadow Mario stage, and oh boy was I ecstatic to never have to do this again.
See, like she got stuck there. She didn't actually soft lock on top of it, but she blocked it for so long when I needed it.
After only about 8 minutes, as I was getting pretty good at Shadow Mario with barrels, it was time to move on to the flooded plaza.
That's so funny. Only 8 minutes on Shadow Mario.
And then, of course, Corona Mountain. Inside the volcano, the gauntlet of challenges became a lot more
Was this the debut of using Pac-Man World 2 music in my videos? I think so. Fitting spot too.
gauntletly and challengey. I'm not going to go over each of challenges became a lot more gauntletly. Inside the volcano, the gauntlet of challenges became a lot more gauntletly and challengey.
I don't know, dude. I think I was just better at making jokes and scripts back in the day. I don't know, dude. I think I got worse at that.
I'm not going to go over each obstacle in detail for a reason you'll see in a minute, but I do want to highlight how I got past this final section with only 3 barrels because I'm kind of proud of it. Basically, what I had to do was this. First, I had to place a barrel on the spike platform, taking care not to get Mario.
You can see a failed attempt at trying to get a barrel to spawn on top of the fire platform right there. A bit under the fire platform.
Killed. Then I came back with another barrel, ground pounded this barrel until it put out the fire on the next platform over, then quickly got this barrel placed down on this spike platform. I then had to rush to get back to narrowly avoid the fire coming back on this platform. I then extinguished that fire again, this time just from the starting area, then made my way over to the second spike platform quickly to get this barrel down near the first fire platform. I then picked up the barrel I placed here earlier, then after too many attempts, finally was able to RNG out this fire, from where I jumped to the next spike platform, extinguished the the final fire platform with the barrel Mario was carrying, and made my way to the mud boat, which I obviously couldn't operate, so I instead started level over and used...
With more barrels, there was maybe something I could have done here, but probably not. And by here, I mean here. Because there's a box here, and if there's more barrels over here, maybe I could find a way to barrel stack up the boxes and do some like weird wall jump stuff. It might be possible to wall jump down this entire like corridor. That's actually interesting. I should look into that. I talked about this a year ago in my updates video from a year ago, but I still want to do like a series where I revisit old challenge runs and just parts from old challenge runs and kind of do what if scenarios, like what if I wasn't allowed to take save states, or what if I actually knew what the solution was, or something like that. What if I approached it today rather than back then when I was bad at the game, stuff like that. And this might be one of those situations. Another one of those is Serena 4 from Floor's Lava. I want to redo Serena 4 without save states and without Kenny Kicks, because Kenny Kicks would actually trivialize Serena 4. I didn't know how to do them at the time of Floor's Lava. I learned Kenny Kicks like shortly after. Anyways, back to the video.
Which I obviously couldn't operate, so I instead started level over and used the swim in the lava glitch to get to the end, making all those platforming shenanigans obsolete.
Yeah, as I said earlier in the video, I was just proud of what I did with the barrels, so that's why I did that.
Now, since we're so close to the end and what I tried next was overall pretty boring, I'm gonna try and summarize everything I tried to get up to Bowser with. I tried stacking barrels on top of their skewed collisions for way too long, used Flood to see if I could tried stacking barrels.
So if you don't know, okay, I talked about this in the previous creator commentary, or no, the one before that, with BCSs and stuff, barrel collision skews. The top of the barrels skews, and then you can place barrels on top of those skews and stuff. So my thoughts were like, I could staircase the barrels up, but the problem is, in order to place barrels down on the skews of the barrels themselves, you have to make another staircase up to that, so you have to keep making more and more staircases, and the complexity gets exponentially worse. And also, because Sunshine is weird about like a lot of layering collisions, it gets really weird. So this wasn't viable, unfortunately. I'm still questioning if there is some way I could have gotten that height with barrels, but I don't know what it is.
On top of their skewed collisions for way too long, used Flood to see if I could barrel stack on top of the Zone boat. I couldn't. Tried stacking
I call it the Zonai boat, by the way.
Way too long.
This was before Tears of the Kingdom released, but you know, the Zonai swirls were a big YouTube thing for Zelda theory videos and stuff. Like everything that had a swirl had to do with the Zonai and Zelda history and stuff like that. And the swirls on this boat called it the Zonai boat, so relatively uninteresting story, but that's why I called it the Zonai boat.
To see if I could barrel stack on top of the Zone boat. I couldn't. Tried stacking barrels on their skewed collisions again, but after it started to get really weird, buggy, and just tedious, I said, F it, I'm just gonna use rocket storage.
Nowadays, instead of using a sensor sound like that, I probably would have used some like sound from Sunshine to censor that.
Now, I think there's a task-only strat to get up the volcano floodless, so it's theoretically possible, maybe, but that's where I'm gonna...
You know, I just realized, I've never, like, watched this too closely.
Strat to get up the volcano
this actually isn't Kenny
floodless,
Kicks.
so it's theoretically possible, maybe, but that's where I'm gonna leave it for now, because it's time
also,
for the... Oh, it's
I beat Super Mario Sunshine without hovering. I don't know who that's by, but, man, dude, I don't know. That's like one of my weird pet peeves. People making videos about, can you beat Super Mario Sunshine without the hover nozzle? When there's an entire speedrun category for that. Like, I don't know. I shouldn't be annoyed by it as much as I am, but I am.
Theoretically possible, maybe, but that's where I'm gonna leave it for now, because it's time for the Bowser and Bowser Jr. fight. So,
it's time for the Bowser and Bowser Jr. fight.
The Bowser fight, the plan was to, you're never gonna guess this one, barrel stack.
Dude, I felt so cool saving it right there. Saving the attempt right there.
So for the Bowser fight, the plan was to, you're never gonna guess this one, barrel stack. After learning that the different sections of the hot tub arms act like different objects, at least when it comes to barrel stacking, I was quickly able to get my first barrel stacked. I was then able to get my second one stacked, even higher of course, and eventually I got a third one up there too. And from the third one, I was able to deliver the first blow to Bowser. Or
at this point, I didn't know you could manipulate just Bowser's AI to make him do like the ground pound attack, and if you side flip right before he does the ground pound attack, then you get enough height to ground pound the arm. So you don't have to introduce barrel stacking into this at all. It's possible to do it floodless in vanilla without barrels. However, I still think what I ended up doing with this level was way cooler, so I'm glad I did.
Or his hot tub.
It also was really hard.
I was actually pretty stoked about this because I wasn't sure how
cool shot, man.
Or his hot tub, rather.
Should have been a panning shot, I think.
Actually pretty stoked about this because I wasn't sure how high I'd have to barrel stack to achieve this or if it would even be possible. But luckily it seemed 100% possible to beat Bowser without Flood and just barrels.
You can tell something's up there because my delivery is like kind of different. Let's watch the rest of the video first, but I actually have a funny story about how this video ends.
Keyword there is seemed. You see, on beat Bowser without Flood and just barrels. Keyword there is seemed. You see, unfortunately, when it came time to get barrels onto the second platform, they'd fall through it once Mario was far away enough. I guess its collision deactivates for game performance or something like that. So unfortunately, my only option was to pull out the rocket nozzle and finish the job without barrels. I finally delivered the final blow and ended my barrels only playthrough on a rather low note. Well, that's what I would have said if I were.
I like this joke too, although I think it takes him a second to get and could have been delivered a bit better. But yeah, I like this joke a lot. Very cool.
So obviously there wasn't a workaround to getting the barrels to stay with the deactivating collision and all, but given the nature of this challenge is that I get to bin edit levels to make this challenge possible in the first place, it was only natural that I did the same thing here. At first I was just going to place barrels next to each super ground pound area, but I thought that was kind of lame, so I put only 3 barrels on the platform closest to Mario's spawn, put some more platforms around that don't have quantum collision, and went on from there. Basically the new goal here was to get barrels from spawn to the platform so that Mario would never be far away enough from the super ground pound platforms to disable their collision.
Oh yeah,
Mario would never be far away enough from the super
that tracks over that. I had to do that by hand back in the day, which is why it's so choppy. Nowadays, motion tracking is pretty trivial. I mean, there's still a bit of like manual work you have to put into motion tracking stuff, especially when it's in games and on footage that wasn't meant to be motion tracked per se. But yeah, back here, I frame by frame edited the text, or every like 3 frames or something like that, which is why it's so choppy, but it's acceptable.
super ground pound platforms to disable their collision. Oh yeah, and I decided to even add one more restriction to make this a little bit more challenging. I now
Speaking of the restrictions, here's another one of those.
Could only barrel stack 2 barrels at once. That meant I had to be extra efficient with my barrel stacking heights in order to get enough space for Mario's super ground pound to activate and destroy the platform. After I quickly dispatched the first platform, it was time to move the barrels over to my next target.
It only felt natural to make it so that I had to be more efficient with my barrel stacking heights because this is the end of the challenge run. So I've learned how to barrel stack here. I've done hundreds of barrel stacks in this run. Now it's time to put that to the test.
In order to do so,
well, I don't know about hundreds, maybe 100 at most, but
so I actually first had to bait Bowser into breathing fire in the opposite direction that I wanted to go because I obviously can't make it over the fire without the rocket nozzle. I then stacked.
Yeah, and I'm so slow that I have to bait him to do it in the other direction because I can't dive, hover slide, any of that obvious stuff that makes Mario go faster. Well, you wouldn't be able to hover slide in the Bowser fight anyways, but you know what I mean.
2 of my barrels and destroyed the second platform. Now, something I should highlight here, if you haven't noticed,
that's cool, breaking the barrels as you're going down.
2 of my barrels and destroyed the second platform. Now, something I should highlight here, if you haven't noticed or don't already know, is that with every next platform destroyed, Bowser Jr. starts to send out more and more bullet bills at Mario. Normally, it's not that huge of a platform since they're easily out.
Not that huge of a platform, I meant problem there, as the on-screen correction said.
More and more bullet bills at Mario. Normally, it's not that huge of a platform since they're easily outmaneuvered or destroyed, but when carrying a barrel, on the other hand, it quickly becomes a bullet hell. And what's more annoying is that the blue ones, if they miss Mario, tend to turn back around and surprise attack him.
Yeah, so this fight actually was, I remember it being really difficult. I wonder how difficult it would be if I revisited it today. You know, I have better game knowledge and more comfortable maneuvering Mario around, stuff like that. I wonder.
Anyways, with a surprisingly low barrel stack, I was able to take out the third, then fourth platform. And so naturally, after Bowser nearly fried Mario to death, it was time to take out the fifth and final platform. And man, this one gave me trouble. For some reason, I was having a lot of difficulty getting the barrels to properly barrel stack here. It seemed like this platform just followed its own rules compared to the others, but after my refusal
I remember getting very frustrated about this and dismayed. Like, I thought it wouldn't be possible for a minute.
to give up, I finally got a barrel to teleport teleport up into the air, which followed many attempts. I then was easily able to get the second barrel in place and finally delivered my final blow to the hot tub.
Oh, that's cool. You see the barrels falling too? That's actually really cool.
Able to get the second barrel in place and finally delivered my final blow to the hot tub.
That's so cool. Okay, bit of a story with that final fight. That original attempt I did at this, where I did like the fake out, like I wasn't able to complete the challenge run. I'm sorry, guys. That actually was like kind of real. So I actually thought like, oh my gosh, Bowser's impossible. I can't do Bowser. And I think I remember going to bed, just being like kind of dismayed, not feeling great about it. And then waking up the next day, either while editing or something, like making the realization that, wait, I can just mod the game like I've been doing the entire challenge run. Because I think that's one thing I didn't do a lot throughout this run. The vast majority of these levels were made before I started running, or before I started playing the hack, even the Pianta secret. So pretty much all of the barrel placements were like predetermined, if that makes sense, pre-placed. And whenever I would fail a level, I very rarely would go back and add in more barrels or adjust the barrel placements and stuff to make the level possible. Like I just didn't do it that often. I don't actually know if I did it like at all up until Bowser. But then when I realized, oh shoot, Bowser is actually impossible with how I've modded in the barrels. Because I've been playing the entire run without adjusting barrel placements and stuff, it just didn't cross my mind that I could like readjust them, because of course I can, right? Like I think I talked about this earlier, like a couple minutes ago, but it didn't feel right to me that I could like adjust the barrel placements and move them around and stuff. But then when I thought about it more, I'm like, wait, but I added in the barrel placements myself anyways, so actually how does this feel weird? If I can make it possible by adding more barrels, or what I did was add more platforms instead of barrels, which might be a little contentious, but I needed that first platform for the barrels to be on anyways. So my line of reasoning there was, well, I was just going to place barrels all around the arena, but that felt lame, as I said in the video. So instead I put the platforms I would have put the barrels on, but just didn't put the barrels on. So those platforms would have been there either way. A bit loosey-goosey, I guess, with the rules slightly, but I think it allowed for something way cooler in the end. So I think that's what happened. I'm kind of a bit foggy on this because this was, again, 3 years ago. So yeah, let's watch the rest of this video.
While I wasn't able to beat Super Mario Sunshine with only barrels, I think I came considerably close. Either way, I'd like to thank all of you who stuck around and watched through this. Unfortunately, this playthrough took much longer than I initially anticipated, which was around 10 hours, and therefore this video is longer than I had hoped. I was hoping to get somewhere around the 15 to 20 minute mark, but as of recording this, it appears I went considerably over it.
I think this was the first 30-minute video I made, so, or 29:56, sorry.
That despite that you all enjoyed the video and found it entertaining, and looking forward,
yeah, of course, people love long videos, dude.
I have 2 videos planned for the immediate future, and most intriguing is that
this is back when I gave updates at the end of videos, which I might actually cut this out through YouTube Studio, because I don't know, people just click off of this. There's no reason to include updates at the end of videos. People don't care.
one of these videos is yet another video related to barrels,
especially if you're watching this 3 years later.
Mario Sunshine. I just can't get away from them. It's probably gonna be another Super Mario Sunshine Experiments mini, so
I'm talking about the invisible barrel video, by the way, here.
So keep an eye out for that in the next few weeks. It's actually pretty interesting and clears up some misconceptions about a certain specific barrel. Anyways, I've been Angry Max, and remember to like, comment, sub, hit the bell, all that YouTube stuff I'm probably supposed to tell you. Look at graph, whatever. And
look at graph. Yeah. Cool video. Oh, watch live on kick.com. That was the Mario Sunshine with only barrels video. I actually am looking at this video more favorably than I thought I would. I think the beginning drags a little bit, but once you actually get into the flow of this video, I think it's actually pretty good. It's pretty easy, a pretty easy watch, and I really like what I did with the jokes in the script. The rest of the script is okay. I made some compromises with stuff not to show, but yeah, overall, good video. I actually enjoyed myself watching this. Like sometimes I'm like sitting there and kind of like cringing during these videos a little bit, but this one I actually really enjoyed. Anyways, let's get to the thumbnail review. One of the rare cases I actually remembered to do the thumbnail during the first recording. I'm getting better at it. This thumbnail is really cursed for a couple of reasons. There's the obvious reason, but also I feel like this thumbnail is just like, it's like a high C tier, you know? I think I did okay with the text, but generally speaking, I think you want to avoid having like big titles in thumbnails, because that's what your title is for. I would probably try to think of a better thumbnail for this. I was having trouble fitting everything in this thumbnail. So you might be able to tell this whole side of the thumbnail with the text and also the Sunshine logo is like kind of squashed. What we're all dying to see is this. You can tell how bad it is when you really zoom in. The way I did this, so I copied Mario's eyes, put them up here. I then like drew on the eyes like just like that, like the pop out, and I clone stamped his eyes. Because here, let's get a Mario image in here real quick. So as you can see, this Mario eye, it doesn't go all the way around here, right? And his eye gets cut off by his mustache and his nose and stuff. And obviously that's not happening when they're popping out like that. So what I did is I basically just did this. It's really freaking cursed. Let's grab, no, not that, this. Take the clone stamp down a little bit. And I just did this around his eye. And as you can tell, it's actually a kind of tough process to get exactly right. And you can see the process here. You can see the individual like clone stamps, but yeah, that's what happened. And also they're obviously bigger and I think a bit more stretched. But yeah, that's how I did his eyes. This is the saving grace of the thumbnail because of how cursed it is. It is now the outro. So I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Thank you for monetarily supporting me. It greatly means a lot to me. I'm really sorry for being late on the August creator commentary, especially because it's like there was none in August and I'm recording this on the 13th of, it's Friday the 13th. Oh no. I didn't even realize. Hopefully the recording is not completely corrupted because it's a bad luck day. So I'm sorry about taking so long to get this out. As for Floor is Lava, hopefully that can be out later this month. I'm going on vacation later this month. But yeah, another creator commentary will probably be out a week from when this one drops, which again is probably on Monday. So that will be the actual September creator commentary. And then the makeup one, I don't know when the makeup one will come out, or like the bonus one for being late on August. That'll just come out eventually. Definitely before the end of the year. I just don't know when. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I appreciate you guys monetarily supporting me, bringing me one step closer to being full-time here on YouTube. Anyways, later. Oh wait, thumbnail time. Oh, maybe we can get a wacky face here. Pog face? Okay. Later.